Thank you for that, Councilman Marcus. Taylor, as I told you, we have a full slate event this afternoon.
He became one of the Boy Scout family, and we always get together because they got Rich Fidel, Joe Roderick, Larry Rodriguez, Robert Thompson, my two kids, and a lot of people here are members of the Blue Boys and Girl Scout, and we're families of the Hicks family. This applies to Jelani. Bernard rules. To this day, Jelani thinks we cheated. We're in a championship game at the Blue Boys and Girl Scout, and there was a rule that every player had to play at least half the game. We're down. I look at the bench, and there's two kids that haven't played. So I brought it to the referee's attention. Those two kids need to play. Turns out, they took out the best players, they put these two kids in. We came back and we won. Jelani to this day thinks we lost. But I like Bernard's comment on that. He goes, you're a year older, the game should have been that close. You lost, case closed. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you very much. And then whenever we would meet, whether it be on the phone or in person, he'd always say, hey, Sal, what's up? So now when I talk to people, I talk to AJ Hodge or Rich Fidel or Roderick, I go, what's up? I can't break it. And I try to get that smile because I'll always miss the gathering of what's up, Sal, the big old smile. Anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you, Sal. And our next speaker will be Abe Jihadi.
Hello, friends. I'm privileged to be able to say a few words about Bernard, my friend, colleague, and someone who I respected and admired since I met him over 45 years ago. I was working at the KZAA Boys Club with the legendary Sal Rodriguez when Bernard started coaching his son Maurice's fourth grade basketball team. I remember Sal telling me, take a look at this team and see how well they pass the ball around. They were really fun to watch. The team went undefeated, won the championship that year. What impressed me was Bernard treated all his players fairly, worked them hard, made sure they developed not only skill, but love and passion for the game. And then at that time, some of you are too young to remember, the basketball community in Santa Barbara, the colleges, high school, and even youth programs had the great influence of slow down basketball. Everybody played slow down. They just hold the ball, hold the ball. At that time, we didn't have the 20-second, the shot clock. And so teams would go for minutes. They called this style tempo or fundamental basketball. Bernard called it doo-doo ball. Bernard's team were always running, passing, shooting, and pressing and having fun. Thank God that style of play was the one that was adopted. I coached the traveling basketball team which featured Maurice and a few of his teammates that are here today. I became friends with Bernard, his wife Lily, and their 3 children at the time, Maurice, Aisha, and Kari. I witnessed the closeness and loving bond Bernard and Lily developed with the kids. The bond got even closer as the family grew with the additions of Nomi and Jelani, and later the grandkids and now the great-grandkids. The family supported each other, and I know they made every effort to be at everybody's event. That was so neat to see, especially when I was at San Marcos and Jelani was coaching and the grandkids were playing. It was just so special. Bernard had an infectious laugh. You guys all remember that. At the Boys Club, first and third graders played on 8-foot baskets, and then fourth grade and up played on the higher baskets. And so I remember the first time that Kari played basketball. Cute little guy, Kari was out there, and I'm out there, and then he looks at me, looks at the baskets, and he said, "It's too low, it's too low." And so anyway, I told Bernard that, and that laughter just started going all over the place, cracking up. But then he had to top me. He had to top my story. So he said, "Well, Kari just told me that he wants to play fourth grade because he doesn't want to be the first grader to dunk on in little hoops." And then I just laughed and laughed just out of love. I'm going to miss that laugh very, very much. I shun the spirit that race between you and Kari. I'm not going to tell that story. In closing, I'm going to miss Bernard, and he'll always be in my thoughts. His family and our community are going to miss the void he left behind us. However, the legacy and the path he burned across his time will remain with us forever. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here. I know Bernard would be very pleased to see everyone here at a celebration of life. When I first met Bernard in 1976, I had just transferred from the University of North Texas to UC Santa Barbara to play basketball. And a mutual friend of ours, Dallas Riley, who was playing basketball just casually with us, was better than most players on our team. Let's go over a friend of mine's house, Bernard Hicks. I said, okay, he was living in a place called Mary Street Housing on UCSB's campus. And at the time, Bernard was barbecuing. And he was barbecuing something I never tried before. It was lamb ribs. I had lamb chops, lamb shaker, pork chops. Anyway, he smoked these lamb ribs. And so that put initially brought me over. And then it started getting closer and closer. But every time on the weekends, he would have these barbecues. He would go to the store, and I would say, Bernard, where are these lamb ribs? He said, no, man, they're called lamb breast. So what he would do, he'd get the excess of lamb breast, and cut the back of lamb breast, and put the lamb ribs on the grill. And so the summer passed, and so I went back to the store to try to get the lamb ribs. The butcher says, we're no longer carrying lamb breasts, but we do have some lamb ribs over here for £12.99 pound. So in essence, Bernard discovered a new cut of meat. But that's what started our friendship. But I can always call on Bernard for any kind of advice, any help, mentorship. And a few years ago, I was very sick with meningitis, and the doctor told me there's no cure for it, no cure at all. So the first person I called was Bernard. I said, Bernard, the doctor says I have meningitis, there's no cure, and I had this migraine, and it's coming with the flu symptoms. I'm sicker than I've ever been. I said, oh no, Bernard, help me. He said, what we call Oliver Wheeler. Oliver Wheeler was our herbalist, and Oliver passed recently. It's what we call Oliver Wheeler. He called Oliver. Oliver told Bernard to tell me, take this SBC, some zinc, and some vitamin B and whatnot. I did that, in 8 hours I was cured. And so the doctor did an x-ray, saw this little sack in my brain was cleared and learned what happened, but that's the story of that. But Bernard, as the gentleman mentioned, was a family man, and every time we would see Bernard, you'd always see his kids with him. One time, Bernard came up on Saturday, I was living in Pasadena, and he says, hey, brother, you want to go to the Steel Pulse concert? I said, Steel Pulse? Well, sure. He said, we're going to do an interview. And this is when Steel Pulse first came into town, the first time, and they played a Whiskey a Go-Go. And he had Maurice. Maurice had his microphone at the time, he was kind of like a roadie, and I was carrying his tape player. And so Maurice and I, and Bernard went to the Whiskey a Go-Go. I couldn't believe I was there. I would go up the steps of the green room. As you know, the Whiskey a Go-Go was nothing more than a house that's converted to a nightclub. Go up to the room, I seen pictures of Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Janis Joplin, and we opened the door, and there was Neil Pulse and David Hines, the lead singer. And Bernard and I ducked through the door, and David Hines said, "It's all about Susie's up here. Here to save us." But yeah, man, such good times. But he always had a major impact on my life. He was a man of character, high self-esteem, building bridges. When I was at KCSB Fullerton as a dean, we developed a college outreach with the university here at KCSB, SLO, and he was always reaching out to kids in the computer room. He just did so much for the community. And one last thing, my grandmother, who was one of the founding members of Santa Barbara, she was born in 1896, and her mother was a slave. And she's seen the good and bad of our black family. And she told Bernard on several occasions, she said, "Bernard, you are the best father, the best man, the best husband I have ever seen in my entire life." And I'm second that. I really and the children have such a strong legacy to build upon: character, trustworthiness, faithfulness, a good husband. So your kids have a strong legacy to build upon, and your kids have a strong legacy to build upon. And you always call me anytime. May God bless you and keep you. I'm always there for you. One love. Thank you.
Thank you for that. What great words. Our next speaker, Mr. Winston Bartley.
Hey, Mark. Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, let me say my condolences to the family, grandchild. 5 minutes is not enough for me, but I'll do my best. Noni, thank you. Maurice, Jelani, Aisha, much love. And to Rachel and the family, Noni. I'm going to jump around in a bit. This is the enemy. He seems to be at the high. Away from the family. Bernard was a friend. I was an also to see life. Nevertheless, let me take my time for a minute. In 1977, when I first came on the scene, the only person I listened to on radio was with Hicks. Reggae. African sound. Fast forward a little bit. 81, 82, I got my own show, KCSB, at 1.9. Thanks to Elizabeth Robinson and Bernard Hicks. Bernard Hicks was the dean, I was a student. He took me underneath his wings and showed me how to mix and make my transition. Radio was not in my forte. Elizabeth Robinson, who was a GM, told me that I should get a show. I did. Bernard, Jay McBride, was one of the GM too. Fast forward, 1986. I don't know Bernard that much. Bernard called me Papa from that day forward. He said, "You want to go to a show?" I said, "Yeah." "Where?" "Never been to LA. Don't know where the hell is Cal State Dominguez Hill was." But Bernard and I drove to Long Beach, Cal State Dominguez Hill. But before we get to Dominguez Hill, Thomas Notes, Anyway, I call it the Big Hill. Going on the Big Hill, Bernard drive a VW bus or wagon, if that serve you right. Everybody started passing Bernard vehicle on the highway going up the hill, great, towards those dogs. Somebody shot, he said slowly, somebody shot past Bernard vehicle. I said to myself, just get Bernard the car. Lord Jesus, I hope I don't have to push this vehicle up the hill. But nevertheless, we made it. Going down the hill to 1,000 Lows, we got to count, we got to the Angus Hill. There was one tree that Bernard and I stood underneath for the entire day and watched the show. And the show was Buddy Whaler, the first time Buddy Whaler got to California. Now, Bernard is a mentor. He's a family man. We share the same passion about the music. He always called me Papa. I call him Mr. B, or Brother B. Fast forward a little bit now. Like I said, there's a lot of story to tell, but 5 minutes is not on a respect time. So, nevertheless, on May 9th, Bernard called me up and said, "Hey, Papa, are you going to the Easter Vibration show?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "All right. So what can I do for you?" Hear me, it's emotional. My daughter knew me for her birthday. The family wants to go. I just said, "Chuck, don't worry about it. Send her your name." They went to the show. EOS, had a great time. Fast forward. And Tuesday, Farmers Market, Bernard and I always meet up at Farmers Market. We purchase from the same produce. Made up of bees, we buy our stuff. We walk up the hill, State Street, Duarte. Everything is great. What is that? Wednesday morning, my brother Mark over called me and said, "Hey, Bernard is sick." Giovanni said Bernard is sick. Immediately we showed to Giovanni and said, "Hey, Mark told me that he's sick." I said, "Is he okay?" "We don't know yet." Friday morning come, my son called me and told me, "Dad, I forgot my shoes." He said, "Good, take it to mom's for me." I said, "What do you do when you go to school without your shoes?" I said, "I will bring it to you." Got a message from Giovanni, and which said, "Daddy's taking the turn waivers. If I want to come see. Now, I went to the hospital and visited my brother, my brethren, my friend, my mentor. That's not the place I want to be. But I did it. The people who surround Bernard were there, his family. I couldn't tell where it was. His wife was standing next to the bed. It was Noni. Noni was doing a videotaping to someone. And she said, "I'm going to step aside so Winston can have a moment with brother." So now, with that said, I placed my hand into his and said, "Brother B, you got me Your family loves you. You've done a lot for the community and beyond the community. But nevertheless, awesomely placed my right hand and his head and say, my love for you is unconditional and it will never falter or waver. The family will still have my love. It seems so good to me, but everything will be alright. I love you guys. Stay strong. May his memory be a blessing to all of us and what he does. As I said, Mount Rushmore is not big enough. Mark, let me go ahead and Christian turn off for you. Go ahead. You tuned to KCSB 91.9. I feel some burnout music from HC. I love you, my brother. Thank you.
Touching listen, thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Mark Alvaro.
I have to read you guys because I'm just got so much going on in my head, so I had to write it down. Bernard Hicks left an ethnic and cultural footprint in Santa Barbara. He showed his love for his black culture through roots reggae and African music. This was his gift to our community. We are a better community because of Bernard Hicks. Yet, basketball was his sport. Like Bob Marley, people would say that Bob loved soccer more than he did music. We might say the same thing about Bernard and basketball. But what we can't say is that Bernard helped and touched multiple kids and families throughout his life by being a humble leader, mentor, and coach, and most of all, a family man and a friend to many, many of us here in this room. I met Bernard as an ambitious 22-year-old junior college basketball player. Many of my teammates were from New York and Brooklyn specifically. So you can see that Bernard and I hit it off immediately once we met. But I was intimidated by this great black man whose booming voice could be heard on FM KCSB from San Luis Obispo to the north to Malibu to the south. And he was, and you are listening to 91.9 FM KCSB in Santa Barbara. You know, and that was like since I was in junior high hearing that voice. And then I got to work with him, that was intimidating. But I have to tell you, once we got serious at KCSB, all he had to do was smile at me and focus on me through those glasses. So he used to look like that, and drop that chin at me. You guys saw that Bernard used to do that, right? And that's what really lifted me up at that time as a young man. You know, he gave me the confidence to set the vibes on the radio, you know, that I used to do back in those times. And then also helped me launch a 35-year career in music from back in those times. And I remember one night we were at the Caribbean Cuisine, and it was Bernard and Lily's anniversary. And, you know, can you imagine having to perform in front of Bernard? I mean, let alone, you know, do radio, but then I had to perform in front of him and his wife on their anniversary. That was a big deal to me back then, and still carries with me today. So when I was asked to be the executive director of the East Side Boys and Girls Club, Bernard was the first person I called, believe it or not. And I have to confess right here that the one thing that drove me towards that position was to restore the dignity that the United Boys and Girls Club tried to take away from Bernard. They did my big brother dirty, and by accepting this position, I wasn't going to let racist Santa Barbara win. Through Bernard's advice, he suggested giving Jelani a shot at helping me restore services at the Eastside Club. My brother stepped in, and both of us, along with a dedicated staff, have started to bring the club forward, and we're not looking back. So when basketball season started, Jelani came to me and said, hey, what if we can get Pops in here to coach our traveling team, the Legends? I said, absolutely, let's do this. Let's get this going. You see, when Bernard left the Westside Club, he wasn't given the opportunity to truly say goodbye to the kids he was working with at the time. And I'm so thankful we were able to fix this broken situation by having him work with our kids today. So why don't you guys stand right here? Oh, you should stand up. Bernard not only coached, but he was also our after-school van driver picking up kids at Franklin School. It was divine to see my brother every day in the club. His presence alone changed the trajectory of what we are doing today. It is truly a blessing to know that Bernard had one more opportunity to come into a club environment and do his thing. I don't think this was by chance. I believe that my relationship with Bernard Hicks was ordained and orchestrated by the Most High. From this time to that time, we have been blessed to have Bernard Hicks cultivating his work with dignity, respect, and dedication for our community. Thank you, Brother Bernard.
I had a good laugh from Mark there because prior to the start of this program, he said, hey Jerry, make sure you keep people on time. And I just told him, Mark, I had to stand up on you. Moving on, no, let's not do this. Our next speaker is Michael Leslie.
First, I want to say to everyone, thank you for showing up. It's not a surprise that there's so many people here today. Bernard touched everyone's lives. That's what he did. Yeah, everybody talks about his sweet acumen, but it was the man's mind that was the most important thing. I met Bernard back in the late 70s. Student housing. My sister happened to be going to college there. I asked my sister, I was like, what is Bernard doing? He's in the same school as me, business economics. We never talked about that much. Everybody kind of knew, sports guy. Bernard was a deep individual. That's what attracted me to him. Yeah, he was born and raised in Brooklyn. There was so much more to him than that. I guess the word that I've been thinking of is good works. When they talk about going through life and giving something back, that's what Bernard did. And he asked very little in return. He gave up himself. He touched everyone in this room with his infectious smile, his joy for life. And that's why people are here celebrating him. I met Bernard as an acquaintance, and our relationship evolved over the years where he let me into his family and let me partake of that joy and love. And Lily, Mo, Kai, Alicia, Tony, John, Grant, sons. You're his lineage. He loved you deeply. Everybody says he was a family man. That was Bernard. He not only talked the talk, but he walked the walk. For those who were here in the 70s and 80s, and they said Bernard was a family man. He was always at home. Never in the streets. The Lord knows I ran him. I never seen him. Nobody ever seen Bernard except with his children. And, you know, that's commendable. You know, I used to always tell Bernard I wanted to be a family man like him. I wanted to be a father like him. I saw how he dealt with his children. I wanted to be more giving of myself like him. He always brought the best qualities out of people. He was always inspirational. He wasn't judgmental. He always had words of advice. And that's what I loved about him. Not just talking about football and sports, but his view about life, socioeconomic views, politics, you name it. Kind of a view he was glad to share with people. I hate it, or however you want to say it. Just a lovely individual. For me, the world is less bright because he's not a part of it anymore. He was one of them ones. Wherever my career took me, in any other state of the country, Bernard and Billy always reached out to me, kept in touch. Wherever I was in Santa Barbara, they opened up their home to me like it's my home. And I've always been eternally grateful for that. Your dad will live in my heart and mind for the rest of my life. It's been a pleasure knowing you and most of all, Bernard Hicks. Thank you for this.
Next, very proud to introduce another lifelong person who gave a lot of time to this community. That is Mr. Fifth Member.
That has lived in this community. But first of all, this is a joyous moment because we are honoring an individual that gave back so much, and he didn't have to do it. So this is a celebration of life well lived. And let's hear it. It's a life well lived. I want everyone, if you could, we've been sitting for quite a long time. I want everyone in the stands, not center court here, to please stand up. Please stand up. And the reason that I'm asking you to stand is this is an opportunity because I really feel in my heart that while Bernard is not physically here, his spirit resonates here. And I want everyone to acknowledge what this man gave to this community and what he gave to his family. I want all of you to give him a standing ovation if we could. Bernard, keep it up, keep it up. You deserve it. You deserve it. Thank you. Bernard, take a bow. The other thing that I don't want to be remiss in saying, this is an extraordinary family. from Maurice to Kyrie, right, to many of the other ones that I won't forget. This guy right here, Noe, Aisha, Jelani, we all know them, but one of the things that we probably don't give as much credit as we should to, I firmly believe behind every good man, in front of every good man, and beside every good man is a woman, and that's Lily. Let's give it up. Very deserving as a matriarch of this family, extraordinary family. I want to share with you my own personal thoughts. I'm 76 years of age, Bernard was 73. What we have in common is that we both went to UCSB. We both went to UCSB. Wilbur, good to see you. Both went to UCSB. We both worked for the Boys and Girls Club. I was the athletic director of Santa Barbara Boys Club, not Boys and Girls Club at the time, from 1969 to 1976. The most incredible memories of my life were at that club. But like Bernard, I left too soon. Not on my own accord, I was basically refused the promotion, so I left. Bernard's situation similar, deserving to be in that place at the West Side Boys and Girls Club, changing and altering lives. He was asked to leave. And as I shared with family, a few of them today was, sometimes God has a better plan. And God's plan for Bernard and God's plan for me was He lifted me to places I never imagined. So I stand here as a man that is most grateful. I really believe I'm one of the luckiest and blessed men to walk on this earth. And because of being in a situation where I felt defeat, all of a sudden I also realized that I was victorious because God gave me a new life and a new beginning that continued to change and alter lives of young people. So I want you to understand that where we're at right now, this was Bernard's domain. This, the basketball court, was his domain. These is where he imparted lessons for life. This is where he literally ruled. He could control so many things. The fact that he was in a place that was familiar and the instructions that he was able to give to these young people helped shape them for life. Honesty, hard work, fellowship, teamwork, integrity, all of those things Bernard Hicks had the gift of being able to impart when someone else could not really do it in the same way that Bernard was able to do it. He was humble. He was one of those individuals that wasn't looking for accolades. He was one of those individuals that really sincerely loved you. And one thing I want to leave with you is, someone once said, it's hard to serve if you don't love. And that is very true. There was something very authentic, real about Bernard Hicks in terms of what he gave back to this community. And what's different about Bernard compared to Sal Rodriguez or anyone else, Bob Thompson, is that Bernard was not born and raised in Santa Barbara. Bernard came here to go to college. There isn't anyone in Santa Barbara that I can think of, or Goleta area, South Coast, whatever, that has given as much as Bernard has given to the youth of this community, not being born or raised in Santa Barbara County. No one.
absolutely no one has achieved what Bernard Hicks achieved. So one of the things that's really critical, I think, to remember, and I'm going to leave you with this, there are, as my wife knows, I have a number of favorite quotes. But one of the most important quotes that I try to live by is, I make my living by what I do, but I measure my life by my ability to give back to others. That was Bernard Hicks. His legacy is right here in your hands. Will it live on? We all here today have an opportunity to make sure that his work, his effort, and his death was not in vain. So again, Bernard Hicks, thank you so much. We miss you, we love you, and God bless.
Mr. Lambert, thank you. Wow. Our next speaker, I'd like to bring up Mr. Cole.
All right.
Hi everyone. I work at KCSB. A number of us are here today. And I've known Bernard for 25 years. I heard him before I joined KCSB, of course. And I taught Adams. It's just such a remarkable program. As Martel Alves put it, Bernard brought the African diaspora to this community and the cultural expression that he shared with us every week for almost 50 years. And as a volunteer too. There was a break recently. I was so glad that he came back. He was able to rejoin the station these last few years. We have some really awesome memories with Bernard around the station. Just in my experience, one fund drive, we do an annual fundraiser with a phone bank, and he exemplified kind of the approach that we were being trained at the time to bring to the airwaves, hanging out in the phone bank room and just regaling us with stories about his youth in New York, going to the Apollo Theater. And I wish I had been recording it, because I was just, it was all the giants that he was able to, and this is like in his youth. He brought that passion for decades to our community. But I think he mentioned James Brown, just names I can't remember. But he really commanded the room. And there was recently a few students who mentioned, they had a similar experience just in the last year of being at a show Hebert and that sort of thing, or meeting him during the fund drive. And that when John Commentary first mentioned his passing online and radio stuff wasn't mentioned, I created a little video with this Jimmy Cliff ID that our friends who are local musicians, Jubal and Dan and Zach were on tour with Jimmy, and they approached him about getting the station idea. I think I mentioned the idea, but they were listeners of the station's youth. They were mentored in the same way some of these athletes were, but just over the air. And I guess I remember Jubal hearing about this, that he was a high school DJ. But Jubal brought up Bernard in particular as a standout on our airwaves. It's Jimmy Cliff, who's iconic. And Jimmy did special shout out to, special tribute. And so that was something I put together just to kind of flesh out like what was powerful and our memories of Bernard. That he was such an incredibly diverse human being. There's so much more I'd like to hear, and this is what we're doing here today. So, yeah, we've been airing special content, special programming in his honor. I did an hour this week, all Blazing Fire immediately, just a few days after his passing. Dedicated our entire Friday show to Bernard's memory and inspiration. And that's happening on multiple occasions on our airwaves. And so his spirit lives on. It's really powerful to be here with you today. It's an incredible group. And thanks, Bernard.
Normally I live for these moments. This is not one of these days. First and foremost, I want to thank God in this moment, right now, in front of you, Mr. Hicks. I want to thank God. I'm gonna try to make it through this. I have a speech written. Some people that were talking earlier sparked some memories of mine. In particular, 1997, Jerry, you might have been here, I dunked for the first time on that rim against Calabasas in the CIF playoffs. And I thought I was that dude. I thought I was him. I had a very inflated sense of self as a young kid, a big ego that really needed to be popped. Definitely did not match reality, for sure. I remember several weeks later being over at I call them the Hicks-Bulls, by the way. Not the Hicks, the Hicks-Bulls. They got this big family, led by this great father and mother, and these kids are doing great, and they got these issues, and everything kind of works out just like the Cosby Show. So I call them the Hicks-Bulls. Forever. By the way, Kyrie's name is not Kyrie, it's Rico. Just so everybody knows, if I ever say Rico, it's actually Kyrie. Okay, I don't even know how to say Kyrie anymore. Oh, Lord. This is why I wrote a speech when I started babbling. Once I get a microphone in my hand, you never know what's going to happen. So getting back to the dunk. I dunked it. That was awesome. I was great, or I thought I was great. I wasn't that great. A few weeks later, I was over at the Hicks-Bulls house, and I was just kind of feeling myself, talking about college, where I'm going to go, maybe Duke, maybe North Carolina, who knows, whatever it is. And I remember distinctively Mr. Hicks looking at me like he does with the glasses, telling me, I'm sorry, I don't like to curse, but I have to say it. He said, Dylan, you ain't shit. Well, Mr. Hicks, you know, I could never battle Mr. Hicks. There was never a thing there. But I remember that. Also, Will, you said something very important. You said something about lamb ribs. How long did those lamb ribs take Mr. Hicks? I mean, how long did Mr. Hicks take to make those lamb ribs? Just out of curiosity. How many hours? 3? I remember on Saturdays, I would go over to the Hicks-Bulls house. I would either have spent the night or I would come over the next day. And because Kyrie or Rico would tell me, hey, my dad's cooking ribs, beef ribs, come over, come now. And I'm on my way, brother. But we always knew I would get there. We would always probably go play basketball for 2 hours, come back around 4, and those ribs would stick. He would start the charcoal about 9, put the ribs on somehow at 10, but for some reason the ribs were never ready until about 7 or 8. And we would be so hungry. We would be like, Mr. Hicks, when are the ribs in? They're almost done. They're almost done. They're almost done. You know that word, they're almost done. My God, it took forever. Okay, Jerry, don't kick me off. I'm going to just say my thing real quick. Okay, those are my 2 off-the-cuff things. It's a true honor to speak today about a man who meant so much to me, Bernard Hicks, or as I came to call him, Mr. Hicks, of course, or Mr. Hickables. He wasn't just Rico's dad. He wasn't just a man in the beanie. We all know he loved his beanie. He was a presence, a protector, a quiet leader, and whether he meant to or not, he helped raise a whole lot of us just by being himself. In the last year or so, I noticed something shifting. Every time I saw Mr. Hicks, I'd hug him just a little bit longer, kind of like an awkward hug that you give somebody. Something inside me told me, slow down, appreciate this moment, and I didn't know why at the time, but now I do. To understand what Mr. Hicks meant to me, you have to understand where I came from. Growing up, like many of us, I didn't have people to help guide me in life. Frequently, I had ambition, I had heart, but I was navigating the world without a map. I struggled with discipline, patience, and how to treat people. In particular, how to treat a woman in the way that they deserve. I had to learn the hard way, and at that time in my life, I needed a role model. I needed to see what manhood looked like when it was done right. And then one day back in the early 90s, I was at the Tournament of Champions at KCSB. Cliff, where you at? Where you at, Cliff? Oh, thank you for that. You're the man. Standing on the gym floor, I was standing on the gym floor when the Hicks family walked in. First came Mr. Hicks. And you know, he always walks like he's trying to get somewhere before his body can actually get there. He was always like this. Trying to get there before his body can actually get there. You guys know what I'm talking about. Okay. I just had to throw that in. Tall, calm, wearing that classic beanie he never took off. Then Mrs. Hicks, holding Jelani. Then Kyrie. Then Mo. Then Noni. Then Aisha. And I remember thinking, wow, that's a whole basketball squad right there. But it wasn't the size of the family that caught my attention. It was how they moved together. There was something different about them. They were kind, respectful, present. They listened. They weren't loud or trying to dominate the room. They just were confident, connected, and loving. And I remember watching and thinking, a man saying, man, I wish I was in a family like that. Fast forward a bit to Lockley Junior High. I'm checking the classes on the window. You guys remember that? Yeah, I'm aging myself a little bit. And I remember looking at my classes and turning to my right, and I saw this big, long, flowing S-curl in the air. And it was Kyrie. And I thought, oh, Jesus, yes, he's here. He has no choice but to be my friend now. Not a lot of people here look like me or him. So he had no choice but to be my friend, and I was thankful. He became more than a friend. He became my brother. And through him, I got adopted into the Hicks family. Now, let me be clear, Mr. Hicks never assigned me chores, but I watched day in and day out how the household operated. And let me tell you, nobody was going anywhere until something was vacuumed, cleaned, put away, or done. Okay, that's how it goes. That was like clockwork. Another thing I remember in particular was every time Kyrie and I would want to go out, I'm gonna wrap it up, Jerry, I promise you. every time Carly and I would want to go out, Mr. Hicks would literally, we were getting ready to go see some girls or something, go do something, we'll do something. And every time we were about to leave, Mr. Hicks would always open up the door and go, you know you're the vacuum, right? And Kyrie, with his high-pitched voice, was like, yes, Dad, yeah, you know it. Don't act like you don't know that. His voice always, yeah, Dad. You know what's so funny is, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret, Mrs. Hicks. Every time somebody annoyed Rico and I, every time, like somebody would tell us what to do or annoy us, every time that person who annoyed us would turn around, we would always go like this to them. And as soon as they turn around, we would like this. I remember specifically, one time we were getting dressed, Mr. Hicks came into the bedroom, did the thing, now you know you gotta do the dishes right. And Kyrie was like, yes, Dad, yeah. And his dad started closing the door, and Rico was like this, on his way out, closed the door, and then he opened the door up. He didn't even close it. He came right back in and told Kyrie one more thing. And in the middle of doing this, his dad came back into the room. He was just like, yeah. He was like, you know you also have to clean the bathroom too. And he was in the middle, and he was like, yes, Dad. And I was just like this. Bro, you almost got caught. Okay, I'm sorry, Jay. I had to tell that story. Here's what I learned as an observer. Mr. Hicks didn't need to preach. He modeled everything. He showed what it meant to lead with quiet strength, to expect excellence without ever raising his voice, to parent with love and structure, to keep your promises, to treat people with dignity, to hold space where kids, even kids like me, could feel safe and seen. Now, one of the greatest things Mr. Hicks ever did for me without realizing it was raise Kyrie Hicks, because Kyrie became like a father figure to me. And I know how weird that sounds when you're the same age as someone, but he took that role seriously. He held me accountable. He wouldn't let me get away with anything. And I just remember always my entire life through repetition hearing from Kyrie and sometimes Mr. Hicks was, why are you always talking so much? Bro, just stop and listen. What is wrong with you? And my personal favorite was, are you stupid? That's the love that Kyrie gave to me. He took the time to love me, even when I probably shouldn't have been. And he got that from Mr. and Mrs. Hicks. And all that came from Mr. Hicks. Kyrie was living proof of the values of his father, instilled in him discipline, integrity, humility, and love. And of course, I can't forget those legendary barbecues, those ribs. I'm just gonna get to the end, Jerry. Mr. Hicks didn't talk much, but when he did, he meant every word. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but his presence, his way of being left a mark on me that will last the rest of my life. The last time I saw him was at the fundraiser for our brother, my fallen brother, Brent Banks. He was taking the to-go plate, which was a very big to-go plate. And I said, and by the way, our relationship kind of turned into me just trash talking him the whole time, which was great. He's a great trash talker. And his plate was so big at the fundraiser, I said, Mr. Hicks, did you pay for that plate? And he turned around, he pulled his fanny in the front, and he said, you know I'm from Brooklyn, right? You know I'm from Brooklyn. Anthony was there. He said, you know I'm from Brooklyn. I might have a knife in here. You know I'm from Brooklyn. I fell out. I gave him a hug. And I said, I love you. And he said, I love you right back. And I just want to, you guys know, y'all my family. And I love you. And
I hope I make you proud, Mr. Hicks. I wouldn't be here without you.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. Really happy.
Good job. Good job. Very impressive. Our next speaker is Julissa.
My story is a little different after what Pastor told me. I was 5 years old. I was 2 years old. My family was Washington, D.C. to Galena, California, not Santa Barbara, Galena, California. And I grew up playing basketball in this hallway right here. And my first Allen Iverson was Duarte. I remember watching him jump on this hallway door and just looking at him, and little bird or barely able to walk. You bet. And at that day, at that point, Duarte was the person I chased. I chased him all the way to high school. Every game, I went to meet Duarte. I was a part of that game that South spoke about making Duarte sit out. Matt was there, Cole was there, my teammates. That was the first time I ever beat Duarte, and it meant something to me. And growing up, I used to always just hear Mr. Hicks yell defense. And growing up, but my dad was outside in the streets. And so I had a lot of men step up. And so when I would see Mr. Hicks always tell Duarte defense, I took it to heart. I always played defense. Sal told me to rebound. I always did that. And so my goal was always, Duarte, I'm gonna catch you up. I'm gonna lock you up. I'm gonna get there. When me and Duarte finally became teammates my sophomore year, I don't know if Coach Sherman's in here, but I should have been on varsity my freshman year. Anybody get here, I was on that team for all the day of work. Just so y'all know. By the time I got to my sophomore year, if you know Duarte, he didn't play defense. He shot the ball every single time. So that was my job. Growing up, I used to always watch Mr. Hicks at every single thing. He never missed anything with Duarte. And the thing that was so wild to me is he never missed anything for the kids at the West Side. He never missed anything. He was always there for everybody. And as a young black man from Santa Barbara, you don't see that. And so what I saw on Mr. Hicks was a black man that was there for his family. And when you don't have that, and my dad had some struggle with it. He was able to get there when he got there. But growing up and seeing that every single day, it allowed me to go on my life, live my life a certain way. Every time I step outside, I'm doing for kids. I don't know no different. What I thought was normal, when Mr. Hicks and Sour Hicks made it normal, is not normal. People don't give their time to these kids just because they love them. People do it because they want some money in their pocket. These men, Mr. Hicks, didn't do it for any money. He did it because he loved these kids. And I saw that. And it left an impression on me that's everlasting. I have a son now. And I share this with Duarte. The hardest thing is, and I tell you young kids, is you want to do it the right way. Right? I had a son where Saduela, right? I had to go see my son every day. I go travel to see my son every 2 days. Then I go close my AAU team.
I see in my son every day, in the relationship that I would build with my son, is what I saw in this business life. I am motivated every single day to be the type of father this is was, to build that rapport with the kid that he really is. Somebody's my best friend. I see the circle. When Azalani was in that place, and was able to bring his father along. And all of us were blessed to have OGs. Not call them OGs, but blessed to have OGs. But we get these gyms and these young people think we know something, but we don't know nothing compared to what Sal, OG. Everybody else in here that they are our OGs. No. And it's an honor for us to be able to be around Mr. Hicks, Sal Rodriguez. These guys that sit here do things for the right reason. As a father, all I try to do with Mr. Hicks was every single day. Miss Hicks, all the days in your house, as he's getting off the line, and I'm in the kitchen eating all the food, all the stuff, talking about, here's a lot to play defense. Mr. Hicks all the truth over what you do. So, Lonnie, you need to play defense while I'm in there eating all the food. And you just sit there and love it. Every time I walk in the house, you give me a kiss, give me a hug. How you doing, man? Every single time. We're back on the family. We're back on Mr. Hicks. You allowed him to be who he was. You allowed him to give time to all these kids. He's affected everybody in this gym. Every single body in a positive way. It takes time for the family, the kids, the grandkids. Understand what your father and your grandfather was. The reason why he did things, the legacy that he left you. That everybody said wasn't from you. But he is your leader. He is the West Side. He is Santa Barbara. This is all you. Support y'all regardless. But everybody can come back and support us so many times. When my dad was outside, there's plenty of times my dad would bring my dad to our family, sit down and talk to us. Plenty of time. Plenty of time. When my dad passed was right there with me. Your dad was right there with me. I can't sit here and give you it's gonna feel good, everything's gonna be good. I can't. But I can tell you I'm gonna be here for you. Just like your father was for you. Just like you always been. Big bro, big sis, big husband. It's love, it's family. It's family. But I want y'all to know, this is y'all. The leader, Santa Barbara, the West Side, this is y'all. I don't care if any Boys Club's name and name. But I'm going to say this, if anybody in here is any Boys Club, the Boys Club need to be named after Mr. Hicks, and I don't care nobody. This is what built this community. You're not getting this anywhere else. Mr. Hicks helped build this community, now something else to serve him and make his legacy live on. Simple as that. I love y'all. I'm hyped, Johnny. You know what I'm on. I want to go hoop right now, play some defense. I'm about to drink back in the car. Let's do it. Listen, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Okay? Mr. Hicks, he's still living. He's still here. We're going to keep his legacy living. And the family love him. You know, we got